We've had some IT issues, but now we are getting to the meat of things. It is my privilege and honor to introduce the lovely and incredible Melissa Wood. I'm looking at Melinda Ellis back there and I slept. Melissa Wood. Melissa is a very interesting woman. We met originally a little over a year ago, January of 2022. And Melissa was the professor of a marketing class for the Global Energy Management Program. And any of you that are not familiar with that program, it is sponsored through CU Denver, right? I always want to get it backwards. University of Denver. It's Global Energy Management. So they have a number of individual classes that you can take, like I took the marketing as a one-off. So professional development credits in all kinds of areas energy related. In addition to that, they have one of the only full energy MBA programs in the country. So incredible staff. Melissa teaches marketing. Jill Engel Cox from NREL is also on staff. So that's one of the things that I really like about it. It's not just professors who've only been in a classroom environment. It is absolute professionals who experience the world and bring that into the classroom. And that's one of the things that Melissa did. All of our assignments were very applicable to real world. For example, the midterm we had to do a competitive analysis, so I got to go investigate and learn about two of my competitors and ended up actually becoming really good friends with one of them. So you never know how it's going to work out. But that is what Melissa, that's part of her magic. Someone said on LinkedIn when we announced this, that she has the ability to brighten everyone's day. And she absolutely does. In addition to that, a couple of fun facts. She is the president of her own consulting firm. She is a veteran in marketing, especially energy focused. Has spent a whole lot of time with Excel, for example, so lots in the utility space that many of us aren't as familiar with. And I'm going to tell one mildly inappropriate story because I have to. We share a joy of working out and various things athletic. I mentioned boxing earlier. Melissa is a boxer. And during training, I was in a spin class one night during our class and texted her because it was football season. And one of our assignments was to watch all the commercials for the Super Bowl and then analyze them, pick a couple, go on the discussion threads, pull it apart, talk about all the symbolism and all that stuff. Next night, I'm in this spin class and Zach pulls up, I'm just going to say, a video from the 80s from the band Divinyls. There is some symbolism in there you can never unsee. So be warned. But that was our text thread that night. In addition to that, another night I was doing a battle ropes class, and I was like, wow, this is the most amazing workout I've ever had. I am going to hurt literally from my hair follicles to my toenails tomorrow. What have I done? So of course I text Melissa that night. I'm like, have you ever tried battle ropes? And she just sends me this photo, and I'm like, all right, I'm not worthy. This photo, she happened to be at the gym, and they just happened to have a professional photographer around doing some promo shots who not only caught her on battle ropes, but caught her mid-air with battle ropes. So that's when I decided this woman is absolutely next level badass. So with that said, I am very proud and pleased to introduce one of the most emotionally, professionally, academically, and physically strong, badass women I know, Melissa Wood.
I'll tell you that you're not supposed to talk about students at all. It's like a HIPAA thing, but it's called FERPA. Except I will tell you this, Kat brought up the bar to the point where I think students started getting a little nervous because Kat on the discussion threads would source her stuff, would be like the textbook person, and I have never had a class participate so much, and it's Factor Kat. And some of them told me that afterwards, like, oh my God. Yeah. I was like, make friends with her. That's all I'm saying. Make friends with her. So I'm super happy to be here with you guys today. It's just really fun being able around smart women in the energy field because we're kind of rare, actually. I mean, there aren't like a ton of us. It's a very male-dominated industry, but I'm going to show you today that really great things happen when we have more women among our ranks. And today we're going to be talking about it twofold. We're going to look at it from a standpoint of how to recruit great women in and retain them. But then also, if you're in the market looking for a job, kind of flip that coin a little bit, things to look for to see if it's a female-friendly environment. So that's what we're going to do. And then I'm super informal, so feel free to interject at any point. I'll tell you some stories. Some of them might even be relevant, but many of them might not be relevant. But in my career, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's been a transition already. Like, I remember early on, I was with Gartner Group, and I had a presentation as a young consultant. And I was heading to Florida for a firm I won't name, but it rhymes with Schmibam. And here I am presenting, and I had walked into just a little area before presenting, and one of the bigwigs came over and said, "Oh, awesome, we're having like 20 more people, can you make copies?" So you're like a young consultant, you're like, sure. I'll make the copies, you know what I mean? But I mean, if you think about that now, I bet all of us could probably tell a story like that, where something you were marginalized, and you know, to make a big deal about it, just presented, but it's not just that one event, it's just what is the culture, what is the tone of the entire organization. Now I fast forward to today, and I just have a lot of hope that things aren't going to necessarily be like that. So in Kat's program, that Global Energy Management Program, when I first started, which was 12 or 13 years ago, something like that, it was like there would be one woman maybe in the class, maybe. And what I would do after I kind of clued in, after the first couple cohorts, I'd pull her aside because we'd break into groups and be like, do not let them have you be the one who's like doing all the power, right? Doing all the PowerPoints. Yeah, so I saw like a ton of nods. Fast forward to today, Kat's group, so now it was almost 50-50.
It was.
Right? But almost 50-50 for the cohort. So Kat's group, there were, 3 women, 2 guys?
The head of the nuclear program for Arizona Public Utilities, her chief of purchasing were in my group. And a couple guys.
And a couple guys. The funniest thing is I didn't have to say, don't be the secretary. They assigned the boys stuff. They were like, we've voluntold him that he's going to be the one who's putting this together. So I was like, ooh, success, right? Really nice change. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to have some fun, show you some fun stuff. But before that, I'm going to do everyone's favorite thing, which is introductions. But we're going to do them a little differently because I know that it says like, oh. So I want you to think way back to what, and there's a point to this one. There's not a lot of point to my stories, but this one there is one, you'll see. Think back to like when you were in elementary school or maybe middle school and what you wanted to be when you grew up. So what I want to do is go around the room. I want you to think about tell us what you wanted to be when you grew up. And then tell us what you are now. Let's see if they're the same. I'm just curious. Okay. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. My name is Rhonda Gathers, and what I wanted to be when I was little was a cashier at a grocery store. That's what I wanted to grow up to be.
I'm thinking you're not doing that now?
No, I went to school for petroleum engineering, so I'm currently the vice president of engineering and operations at a small energy company.
That's good too. I mean, Kathy.
I guess I'm still handling money in a way. Maybe that's
just
what
bigger
it was.
money.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Me going next when I was little, I wanted to be a princess.
Oh,
Because
nice.
we grew up in the farm, so that's why I want to be a princess.
You are a princess, Kia. Come on.
Thank you. And currently I'm a founder and owner of my own consulting company with a history in oil and gas industry, engineer.
Very nice.
Let's just push
Yeah.
it this way, Melinda.
Yeah, I'm Melinda Ellis. When I was little, I wanted to be a lawyer. I really liked to argue. That was always my plan to go to law school and then sucked into the oil field instead. But it's been good to me. I like it, and I'm a facilities director at Cord Energy.
Still use present tense there.
I am Rebecca Perez. When I was growing up, when I was little, I wanted to be an astronaut. Now I am in procurement at Kahuna.
Okay. Julie JP. I wanted to be a vet when I was a little girl. I'm the administrative coordinator at Kahuna.
Hurts a lot, cats.
I'm Rachel Curley. The first thing I actually wanted to be was funny because my parents told me this. I wanted to be a horse. Obviously couldn't do that. Did ride horses. And after that, the first thing I can remember wanting to be was an author. I wanted to write books, and I'm the marketing manager for Kahuna.
The first thing I can think of that kind of drew my interest was architecture, and it was like my parents were looking for a house, and I like loved the layouts. I don't know what it was, tracing paper, and this is what I want to do. I'm not an architect. Director of administration at Kahuna, and I guess I'm an architect in a way. I design things to make people successful, but it's not building buildings or homes. Communities.
I'm Gigi Goddard. When I was younger, I also wanted to be a lawyer. A lawyer by day, and I wanted to be a model by night. I have
Ooh.
I like to argue, but I also like to strut and stuff. I'm the admin and marketing assistant.
Danielle?
Danielle Cook. And what I want to be when I was younger is I wanted to be a doctor. I actually went that all the way up through college. But now I am a product manager for a large weight manufacturer.
Leah Fields, and I wanted to be a photographer, and now I'm a production engineering tech at
Stephanie Osa. When I was younger, I wanted to be a doctor, which is hilarious because I can't handle like blood or anything. But now I am a facilities engineer at Ovintiv.
I have no clue what I wanted to do. Even with all these hints, I seriously don't know. Played sports all my life, so I think I just, like, thought I would be like playing the rest of my life, but really, I don't know. Maybe my parents didn't push me enough to think. I do business development.
I'm Billy Glasgow. I wanted to be in the health field, and I did go into the pipeline of the body, GI, for most of my career. And during a big layoff in northern Colorado, I got the opportunity to go into a different pipeline. So I ended up becoming a QC, world mapping, CAD, architectural type person, but now I'm a project manager assistant to Mayor's Group. So I travel, I'm in the field, and in the office a lot, so. 2 different pipelines.
All right, last but not least, well, not last if you're going to reveal, but I'm Catman. Let's see, first I wanted to be a nurse because my mom was a nurse, but a stay-at-home mom. Then I went through a period where I wanted to be a cowboy. I had a James West thing, not sure exactly how that all was going to work out. But apparently my fate was decided when I had to start doing door-to-door sales for various things, and my next-door neighbor had me pegged from about age 6. So I am proudly an account manager for Enerflex.
And I thought that I wanted to be a hairdresser, which is crazy because I don't even blow dry my hair. So I'm like, exactly how was I going to pull that off? Because I'd be bored. And clearly I do consulting, and I also teach at CU. But it's really interesting, right? I think my point on that is, like, in our profession especially, no one ever grows up as a little kid. It's not like a profession. It's like, I want to be a petroleum engineer. Like, a lot of kids don't say that, and if they do, it's pretty unusual. I mean, they're just these professions that you'll hear over and over again from kids. And so it's kind of think about how you got into the industry. Did you know someone, or how did you find it? You found it because you have like a happy little circumstance. You're like, oh shoot, whole new life, whole new industry. If you think about it, oftentimes people know someone who's in the industry or an opportunity just kind of comes up. Does anyone have any interesting stories about how they got into this field?
That's exactly how I got into the industry. Actually, I swore I would never be in oil and gas industry because my dad was on the company side for plus years. We traveled all the time, so I was like, I don't want that at all. I had a friend from college that worked at Baker. Yeah. So that's how I started the industry.
And sometimes people will go in exactly the opposite of what their parents do too. And my kids are like, I will never go in the office ever, ever. And then they're like, oh wait, for that job you have to wear maybe an office looks good. Anyone else have kind of an interesting way on how they got in, how they stumbled upon this industry? Sometimes it finds us too, right? We're friends with each other. You'd be really good at this. Me too. I was like in telecom, like, who would go into that? And then I was like, oh my gosh, it was like such an exciting time to enter the energy field that I never looked back. And now it's like the sexy place to be, right? Now it's like, okay, so with that, we'll talk a little bit more about the talent awards.
Can I just report it after the fact?
Totally your call.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, geez,
I was I think there's a clip-on too, if you would prefer a clip-on mic, if that's less distracting. Because then you can do the mic drop later.
And then you'd stop and only put this on. This is just the steps.
I will officially apologize to people on Teams that may not have heard that first part.
Can you hear me now?
Everybody good?
Okay, funny quick gem story. Before we used to like teach over at the CU building, we would teach at the Weston, which was really interesting because students would like go for a cocktail during breaks, and by the end, because they were really long classes, some of them like they're hungover before the class even. Like, there were some really ridiculous conversations, but there was a professor at one point who would always take this off because they'd record. There's a professor who walked into the bathroom with it on, which was like my nightmare. And I, oh my God, you might want a test. Okay, so let's talk about the Great Resignation. Have you guys heard about the Great Resignation? Yeah, which is, I like to affectionately call it, take this job and shove it, right? That's pretty much what happened. So what you can see here is that just in 2022, 51 million people in the U.S. quit their jobs. Now this was, they started tracking this in 2001, so that was kind of the first year they tracked it. It's unprecedented, except in the 70s there was something that occurred similarly. They just didn't necessarily track it like this, and this was a very different circumstance. This was because people would leave their job to go to another job, or they were leaving their job because they had a prospect that they felt very favorably about, unlike what you saw in the 70s. Now this is, like you can see here in 2021, it was still close to 50 million. So it's like, you know, I remember in 2022, we're like, oh my gosh, unprecedented. And then 23, oh my God, really unprecedented. So it's like, where is this going, right? Very amazing. Did anyone here switch jobs during that time frame? Yeah?
I wanted to.
That counts.
Yeah.
That counts. So as I mentioned, it's because employees were switching jobs. It's not that they were necessarily exiting the workforce. Of course, there were people exiting the workforce, especially with COVID, but that was not one of the primary drivers of this. So with employees, what happened was there was just a big increase in confidence about the job that they could land, and they weren't wrong. There was record hiring, and there were the fewest layoffs occurring too. Employers, on the flip side, was like, oh my gosh, competing for employees. Did anyone else try? Yeah, not against, oh my gosh. And what happens to some of the candidate pool? Yeah, holy, you're like, oh. I know you were just there baking a cookie, but we could totally teach you how to do this, and we meant it, right? And we meant it. So there are these talent wars, and the way the competition was happening is higher wages, allowing for remote work. There were other organizations that were really good at doing allowing for remote work, and they would swoop on into an area that did not allow remote work and take their employees, right? And they pay better in many cases. The other thing that was happening too was employees were able to ask for more money, and employees were able to ask for unprecedented amounts of money that they didn't necessarily always have the skills to back up, but you had to give it to them, right? Those were the things that were happening. Something else that was kind of fun was Quick Talk. Does anyone ever see any of these Quick Talks where people are quitting online? I'm going to show you one that was like a more appropriate one, because there was some that was like, maybe over drinks I would show that one. Hoping you'll be able to see this. I'm going to put this over, like here. Hopefully it's not blaring at you guys. I just want to make sure you can hear.
Come with.
Oh, and switch your slide back. Here.
Come with me too. Quit my corporate job and quitting my job today.
I am so nervous. I've never been more nervous to have a conversation in my life. I have butterflies in my stomach. This is one of the hardest, most bittersweet decisions I've had to make. I'm like running through all my lines, all of the things that I want to make sure I get out and communicate. But no matter how many times I practice, I feel like I'm just gonna word vomit as soon as I get into my boss's office. Oh my god, straight up having an anxiety moment right now. Oh, okay, wish me luck.
She's so cute, isn't she? I didn't show you the TikTok that follows this, but you know what she ended up being, where she quit for? Has anyone ever seen this one before? A Disney princess. She worked for Disney. She's there. And isn't that yeah, she's there. She's putting her like corporate jacket off, and then she's got the Disney princess dress under it. She's walking like Disney corporate. That was like her, which I thought was kind of fun.
There you go, Tia.
Yep.
Goals.
She took your job.
Stole that out from under you.
Maybe she's already quit that one too.
Yeah, you're right.
Never know.
So our industry has a problem, right? So we know that the whole U.S. has a problem, but our industry has a little problem too. Unfortunately, they don't really separate out as like mining, quarrying, and oil and gas. But what you can see here is, you know, there's like the oil bust when things kind of went down because of the vacancies. This kind of went down, but it's like there are a lot of job vacancies. I mean, you didn't need a chart to tell you that, right? We're having a hard time filling some stuff. So it's kind of a problem. So that is like, hey, is our baby ugly? Is our baby that ugly? If you look here, I mean, we have kind of more challenges than the rest of the industries. You know, when you see here, there's a point where in 2009, oil and gas ranked as the 14th most attractive employer. In 2019, it fell to 35th. I don't have the latest statistics. I'm just going to fly drop again. We're losing talent to other sectors, tech, renewables. I mean, I think renewables can kind of be considered, I mean, there's one of them, but there are other industries, and a lot of this also has to do with the fact that they're not necessarily as married to you have to be butt and chair in office. They've been reaching out and grabbing folks nationwide for a while now. The other thing that's happening is environmental, social, and governance stuff is a driver of sector exit. So when you look at who's exiting and why they say they do, they will name some of this ESG stuff. But you know, our baby is not ugly. No. Because we've had like spurred investments, there are skill shortages, which means salaries have increased. And then people don't have to move. It used to be that a lot of folks would have to move to wherever they were told to go, and that's not the case anymore because they're able to work remotely and because it's a lot more expensive to move employees, so corporations are not necessarily doing that. So no, our baby is not ugly. But people don't see that. We need to bring the photos out more. But it's not just about the money, it's about the mission. And we probably all know that too, right? Even if we were paid really well and we hated what we were doing, we'd probably go be Disney princess, because that would sound better, right? But when you look at here too, this is based on a report of folks who are in the oil and gas industry. And you can see here what drives them. So, of course, compensation is always going to be important. But when you look, and benefits, which I would kind of tile on that, like, what are you giving to me? But if you look here, it's like working on exciting projects or the relationships they have, so that sense of community with their colleagues, flexibility or contributing to society, an opportunity to have a career path. I think that's interesting here too. And some are saying opportunities to relocate not as important to them necessarily for why they work here. But when you see here, it's not just about the money, it's about the mission too, right? 31% of people saying that they're contributing to society, which, I mean, it's not the same as it was where it was like all about just the money, I'll go wherever you tell me to go. Things are different. I was really surprised at how much the exciting projects really drive stuff too. You know, it's so knowing what they're getting into, and that's what's keeping them out. But it also makes someone easy to cherry pick too, right? If you have a more exciting project, you could lure someone away. So I like channeled my inner cat because she's so positive, and I'm like, our industry does not have a problem, it has an opportunity. An opportunity, damn it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we do. So what is opportunity? So gender diversity and racial diversity, that's a big opportunity area, especially for our industry. When you look here, there is a link between diversity and financial performance. So when you see here, you can see that there's ethnic diversity, ethnic and gender has the biggest bang for your buck, but there's also gender diversity. So, I mean, you've got here top quartile, and these are bottom quartile in terms of diversity. And you can see that those who are in the top quartile of diversity outperform those who are in the bottom quartile. It makes a difference. But like why, right, is the question. Now I will say, there is a caveat. If it's a culture that does not, kind of the general culture, it is not female supportive, so like let's take the Middle East, right? It doesn't necessarily matter if there are a lot of women in there, if it's not like they're valued or appreciated, you're not going to necessarily see better financial performance. Why? Because they don't have a voice. I mean, same thing with Japan too, actually. So there is that kind of caveat. But fortunately in the US, gender diversity is valued and it does matter. It really matters to top female candidates too. So when you're trying to get the best and the brightest in, females care about, women care about it. And even if it's, I'll show you kind of different ways that we don't even know we're picking up on it, but we pick up on whether or not there's opportunity for females in a company. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But the reason why there's this link is because it's a very attractive work environment when it's somewhere that's more diverse. In companies, there are more innovative ideas. It's proven that there are more innovative ideas that come through. And then for investors, they look for it because it signals competent management. So there's a lot of confidence in management when it's a more diverse environment. About 7 out of 10 of job seekers overall look at workforce diversity when they're choosing a job, and 61% of women look at gender diversity of the leadership team of the organizations they're going to. Have any of you ever looked at that, looked at gender diversity? Okay, does anyone have can anyone give an example of kind of what you did to find out if there was any gender diversity where you're at?
Pull the annual report.
Oh, that's right.
Or go to the team page on their website.
Yeah.
That's the quick one.
Yeah. Count them up.
Yeah, I usually see.
Yeah.
Board is a key.
Yeah. That's right. You guys heard the term she session before? Okay. It was a she session. And what that is what ended up happening is during the recession, during the pandemic, and actually even after the pandemic, a lot of women had to choose between caregiving, and that could be kids, or that could be like the sandwich generation parents, and their career opportunities, which resulted in women having to take a step back or exit the workforce. It was a very real thing, and it's a real challenge. The reality is even if it's like a relationship with like a man and a woman, like our partners, it tends to be the female that takes on that load. And I don't know if you guys experience that. Personally, I experience that. But it's like you end up taking on more of that load. So women account for about half of the U.S. labor force, but just 27% of Fortune 100 executive positions in 2021, underrepresented. And that's better than 1980, where not one woman held any of the top